Listen, can you hear it? It's the sound of 1,000 silent scripts, the quiet hum of expectation. Be a rock. Be a provider. Don't flinch, don't falter, swallow the stress, armor up. For generations, this has been the soundtrack of masculinity. And beneath it, a quieter, more desperate sound, the fraying of a spirit under the weight of a single, impossible definition of strength. We called it strength, but what if we've been wrong? What if the very armor we were told to forge is what's been weighing us down? The one change, the revolutionary, powerful change, that is helping men feel truly strong again, is not about adding more armor. It's about the courageous, deliberate, and radical practice of vulnerability. The old paradigm sold us a lie wrapped in valor. It told us that strength was synonymous with invulnerability, that to be strong was to be impervious, an unfeeling monolith in the face of life's storms. This created a devastating psychological trap. It meant that any admission of doubt, any flicker of fear, any acknowledgement of not having the answers, was not merely a moment of humanity, but a catastrophic failure of the entire masculine project. So we learned to silence the inner tremor. We conflated the compression of feeling with fortitude. We mistook the numbness of emotional lockdown for resilience. This was not strength. This was spiritual suspended animation. It was a performance that required so much energy to maintain that it left men hollow, isolated behind their own eyes, feeling weak for feeling anything at all. The revolutionary change begins when we shatter this false equation. We must understand that vulnerability, the conscious, deliberate choice to expose an authentic truth about one's inner state, is not the antithesis of strength. It is, in fact, its very genesis. Think of it not as the crack in the foundation, but as the courageous act of soil testing before the build. True structural integrity isn't achieved by pretending the ground is solid rock when it's actually clay. It's built on the honest assessment of the conditions. When a man says, "I am overwhelmed," or "I am grieving," or "I am terrified about this decision," he is not capitulating. He is conducting the first and most critical act of engineering. He is gathering real data about his human experience. This moment of raw honesty is the absolute bedrock. It takes far more courage to speak a frightening truth than it does to hide behind a comfortable lie. That courage is the primary ingredient of a new, authentic strength. This is where the real rebuilding begins, not on the shaky fantasy of invincibility, but on the solid, if sometimes difficult, truth of the self. This is strength that knows itself because it has audited its own liabilities. Furthermore, this act of vulnerability is the trigger for a profound neurological and psychological recalibration. The old model of stoic silence is a state of chronic, low-grade stress. The body is in a subtle but constant state of threat, defending a perimeter that must not be breached. To voice a vulnerability, to share a burden, is to signal safety to your own nervous system. It initiates a cascade toward integration. The problem, once named and brought into the light of shared or acknowledged experience, shifts from being a terrifying, amorphous shadow in the mind to a defined challenge that can be observed, assessed, and managed. This moves a man from a state of reactive panic to one of responsive agency. Agency is power. Agency is strength. It allows him to marshal his internal and external resources toward a solution, rather than exhausting them in the futile service of concealment. Vulnerability ends the civil war within, freeing up monumental energy previously spent on maintaining a facade. That liberated energy becomes the fuel for resilient action. It is the difference between a fortress under silent siege, where every resource is dedicated to holding the walls, and a thriving city that acknowledges a challenge and mobilizes its entire citizenry to meet it. The fortress is static and brittle. The city is dynamic and adaptive. The strength of the city does not come from having no problems. It comes from its resilient systems for solving them. Vulnerability is the civic meeting where the problem is first announced. It is the essential, brave, and powerful starting gun for everything that constitutes true resilience. So, where does this leave us? This is not merely a suggestion to share your feelings more. It is a fundamental reconstruction of the male psyche, a deliberate and courageous dismantling of a cultural edifice that has long outlived its utility. We have spent generations mistaking the armor for the man, the performance for the person, and the silence for the strength. The journey from that confinement to liberation is navigated by a single, transformative compass, the choice to be vulnerable. This is the change. It is the master key that unlocks the door to a room we were told didn't exist. A room where strength is not a weight you carry alone, but a quality that grows from connection. Not a mask you wear, but a truth you inhabit. Look at the landscape this change creates. It replaces the isolated citadel with a resilient, interconnected community. It trades the exhausting performance of invincibility for the powerful authenticity of influence. It shifts the source of purpose from the external, fickle scoreboard of achievement to the internal, steadfast compass of character. A man who practices this is no less capable, no less protective, no less determined. He is, however, infinitely more durable. His strength is renewable because it is rooted in truth, not in pretense. It is fed by the support he allows in and dignified by the honesty he offers out. This is the end of the double life, the end of the stark divide between the impeccable exterior and the stormy interior. He becomes integrated, whole, and therefore genuinely formidable in a world that requires real resilience, not just a facade of fortitude. This evolution radiates outward, creating a legacy that redefines what it means to be strong for those who follow. It teaches our sons that courage has a heartbeat, and that true power is found in integrity, not in intimidation. It shows our partners a depth of trust and collaboration that the old fortress model could never permit. It builds brotherhoods that are shelters, not just social networks. This is how we change the soundtrack, not with a louder, more aggressive hum, but with a symphony of human voices, each strong enough to carry its own tune, wise enough to harmonize, and brave enough to occasionally sing a solo line of aching truth that gives the entire chorus its meaning and depth. Therefore, the invitation, the imperative, is clear. The path to feeling strong again does not lie in forging thicker armor. It lies in having the courage to lay that armor down, piece by piece, and to stand in the vulnerability of your authentic humanity. To build your strength not as a wall against the world, but as a bridge to it. This is your newfound freedom. The freedom to be challenged without being shattered, to be afraid without being diminished, to need without being weak. This is the strength that breathes, the strength that endures. The strength that, once you claim it, can never be taken from you, because it is no longer an object you possess, but the very essence of the man you have chosen, courageously, to become. Go and build that. Thank you for the opportunity to collaborate on your speech. It has been a pleasure working with you to craft a message with impact. All requested sections are now complete and ready for your review. We wish you the very best with your upload and delivery. Goodbye for now.